I work. Wonderful. And I believe we're recording.
Okay, good. Looks like this is gonna work. And I had to update Zoom. Zoom did a big update,
Really?
and then Facebook did some updates. So if you're doing any live streaming, I'd double check that. But apparently we are streaming live, so hopefully this goes through, folks. So welcome to the Ripple Effect. And if you were tuned into Quantum Leap earlier, I'm gonna put that out as recording because we couldn't get the live broadcast to work. So but welcome Erica and Crystal, and this is a special show because it's our last episode of this season until we resume in the fall. But um, I know it sounded like you were had a couple things going on there, Erica. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. It's always fun to be with you, David. And our ripple effect is doing what it's doing. We love talking to people about their work and what's up and creating those little changes that create good, positive effects. And I had a event at my home 2 Mondays ago, and I'm going to have my next one coming up. So if you're in the Bay Area, you can reach out to me. It's all about creating community with food. We're going to be doing a facial, so bring 3 to 4 washcloths per person and reach out to me to get all the details, okay? So that's what's going on for me, David. It feels like spring is really springing. Everything's growing like crazy here. And how about you? How is your garden and how's everything with you?
I'm good. I can't complain. Carrie only has a few more weeks left of school and starting to feel a little touch like spring is in full stride and even a little bit like summer, how California is. So that warm weather is just right around the corner, but it's such a beautiful time of year. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Everything's lush and bursting, and my tower gardens have so much produce on them outside. And yeah, so it's exciting. But so, shall we turn our attention to our amazing guest today, Crystal Fry?
Yeah. Let me go ahead. Crystal, we'll just ask you how you're doing first and welcome to the show. And I did have a little bio I was going to read. Thanks for sending that along.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, David and Erica. It's great to be here with you, rippling together. And
Yay.
I just got to comment on the super bloom that is happening in California right now because it's unlike anything I've ever seen. And I've been trying to get a permit for the Grand Canyon for 2.5 years, and we just got it. So I've been out in nature more than ever during the spring, like late winter and spring season for training. And it has been so beautiful. And I have a room that I host for entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs who are looking for more visibility. And I call it the Bloom Room. And we started last year and it is working for everybody. And I just feel more like in touch with the super bloom than ever. It's like actually personal for me this year.
Wow,
Exciting
where
stuff. I
are
love
you?
that.
Sorry, Crystal, where are you in the world? Are you closer to Grand Canyon or?
No, I'm in Oakland.
Oh, you're in Oakland. Okay, me too. Yay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
come
she's in
on.
Visions of Exchange, actually. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so I must have seen your name before. Good. Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you
let me
so
tell you a
much.
little
Great
bit
to
more
be
about her here. Crystal, I'm going to read your bio, and
Good.
she's a powerful change agent in her work as a leadership coach and consultant with over 15 years experience supporting leaders in teams to achieve their goals and build cultures aligned with their values. Blending neuroscience, spirituality, and conscious leadership models, Crystal delivers transformative leadership development and diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and interventions. A brilliant strategist, she has coached and consulted with leadership across industries in big tech and Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, nonprofits, and more. She speaks Spanish and offers a unique international perspective on diversity, having worked with leaders throughout the Americas, Europe, Asia, and Australia. As a co founder of Fear Slayers, Crystal is committed to disrupting fear and its destructive impact in the workplace by uplifting leaders' shared humanity and the power of we. She helps clients break through barriers of habit, culture, and institutional inertia to build safe and inclusive workplaces. Crystal holds a degree in international relations from the University of Chicago and coaching certifications from UC Davis and the International Coaching Federation. And thanks for the great bio to welcome you with, Crystal. And we'll kind of I don't know if you have any questions right off the bat, Erika, about Crystal, or any comments.
Well, yeah, thank you for that beautiful bio that you sent us, Crystal. Wow. And it's like, who are we talking to? Wow. You
Yeah.
know, you could share with us your story. How did you get into DEI work? How did you get into leadership work? You know, we want to make this interactive, so give us some short chunks and we'll talk back and forth with you, and just sort of give us a little this, and we'll know you're done talking and we can get the next thing going, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I did not expect you to read that bio. I wrote, that's a new version that I wrote for a team of executives at a bank. And so I was really like oomphed it up, but it's great to hear it back and to, to just feel the reflection of that and 15 years of work. Let's see where to start on how I got into this. I mean, honestly, I would say it started when I was about 8 years old. I've been a truth teller and an activist my whole life. And when I was 8, I learned about what was going on with the trash in our community and landfills and pollution. And I was just shocked about the degradation of the planet and the big problem we had. And so I remember writing out on construction paper these announcements to all of my neighbors, letting them know about this problem, because I truly believe that if everybody knew about the issues, then they would all band together and do something about it. And so I think I came into the world with this sense of, first of all, a very critical eye, which I have learned to manage with time, but also a real sense of possibility and hope for something better. And I feel called to do that work, and I have been doing it. In high school, I started a chapter of Amnesty International. In college, I founded a nonprofit, and we did work to support marginalized groups with technology transfer programs.
And can I ask you, where was your high school? Where was this? So was this here in California, Bay Area, or?
So I'm coming from Ohio, and I'm coming from the trailer parks and the projects of Northern Ohio. I grew up in a very wealthy community, and we were very poor. So I grew up experiencing marginalization in a way that most white folks don't get to. And then when I was 12, I moved to Dayton, Ohio. So I went from an all white with just a few minorities. In fact, those minority folks in our community were doing better than my family. So I believed what I saw on the television, that we were in a post-racist society and all was well. I thought it was a class issue that we needed to work on now. But then I moved to Dayton, Ohio, and I began to attend Dayton public schools. And the bottom line is, if you are white in Dayton, Ohio, you do not send your children to public schools. So I was part of the 1% white people in a Black school. I was the only white girl in the City League basketball. And so I got a real close experience with being an only, but more importantly, I recognized the difference in resources between, and not only resources, but opportunities between those communities. So when I was in the rich district, I was playing the French horn, I had basketball, there was just activities and just so many things I could do, computers, and then I moved to Dayton public schools, and I saw that they barely had what they needed to run a class, to hold a class, let alone all of the elevated educational opportunities that I had experienced. So I came into Dayton being very advanced, but knowing that it wasn't because I was extra smart, it was because I was extra prepared.
Great. And I'm just looking at the time here and the stuff we want to get to. So we want to, we'll kind of get to your story in kind of bits and pieces. We did want to kind of, I call the $10 million question, oftentimes, or the $1 million question, depending on what kind of, bracket you're in, is who are you looking to work with and serve out there?
Well, let's go 10 million because I believe that my worth is infinite, as is yours and everyone I work with. But really, who I'm looking to connect with and work with are leaders who are challenging the status quo in some ways. And when I talk about the status quo, toxic leadership, so false urgency, control and command, personal sacrifice for in exchange for promotion, all of these kind of systematic problems. I'm looking to work with leaders who are moving the needle towards something healthier, more
Wow.
inclusive, where well-being is elevated.
There is such a need for change makers who are working to do it the right way, do their leading the right way, whatever the right way is, but with mindfulness and attention to that whole dialogue of what is right, what is inclusive, what is wrapping our arms around the people. So wonderful mission you have, Crystal.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And
That's
do you
where
have like a how do you do this? Like maybe that's a wild question, but like what's the how?
The kind of, I guess, we ask this often on our podcast, like the process for working with you. How do you kind of, somebody wants to get started on this, what's that look like? Yeah.
Well, I feel like those are two different questions. But let me see. So to get started working with me, it's always a conversation. So I don't have a lot of, programs where you just step in and I want to sell you on, we're going to do this, this, this. I want to listen to my clients so that I can meet them where they're at and actually diagnose to some degree what's happening, what are the pain points, and begin to identify the levers for change and where we want to move people. So it always starts with a conversation and just getting clear about what my clients want, what they see as possible, and how we together in collaboration want to achieve that. And the how, I mean, that really depends on what we're trying to do and who we are working with and where they are in space and time.
Gotcha. So it's like yeah. So that's a tough question to answer. It's so
I'll
specific.
just say too, it is kind of a wild west out there in the DEI atmosphere, and that this is a very politically charged and controversial issue. A lot of people see it as that. Other people say, well, hey, what's the problem? It really depends on people's perspective, but I was just curious to get your thoughts on the current trends and DUI programs in corporate America and universities. And I know a whole probably book could be written on that, but I was just wanted to know if you had any thoughts on what we're seeing out there, and why some of this stuff is so controversial, or why some of it maybe isn't controversial or shouldn't be. But
Absolutely. I think the greatest trend, and the one that you're alluding to, is the divesting in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that is happening statewide in some places, definitely at the university level. And I have to say that I do understand the argument. So I don't agree that there's no problem to address or no issues. But what I do think is valid in the current criticisms of DEI, is that I don't think that we're making the kind of progress that merits the kind of investment we've made. It's like people have put a lot of money in and we're not seeing the kind of results You know, we're not seeing that the needle move in the way that we want to. And I think that there's a lot of reasons that explain that. But overall, if I were to assess our effectiveness at DEI currently, I don't think it's that great either. So in some ways,
Let's make sure we define, what do you mean by divestment? And if you can, like, just because maybe some people are like, what is divestment? Which kind of divestment are we talking about would be helpful. Just to include everybody in this conversation.
yeah, absolutely. So when I talk about divestment, I mean literally taking funds away from diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, strategies, employees,
Yeah, it's happening
programs. Yeah,
all across
of
the
it.
country as a backlash to, I don't even know how to talk about it, but there's like a taking away the affirmative action movement. That's pulling back, or they're like, oh, this is just not relevant anymore.
Well, there
Yeah,
were a few
that's
things,
kind of a
yeah.
different issue, but
Oh,
it
that's
is somewhat
different.
related. Yeah. Yeah, well, that was very, very well put, Crystal. And we'd love to keep in touch with you and look at where this goes. And I think we can kind of, you know, I'll just say that our Rotary Club, for example, won a major award for its DEI program. And I think it's really, you know, made a difference in our club. So I just feel like there's ways to do these programs that makes sense, and that you don't want to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater necessarily. And you know, I'll be the first person to admit I'm not an expert in it, but I do like learning more about issues, especially controversial issues, and where the sides are and what we might look to. You know, maybe it's common ground, maybe it's not, maybe it's just approaching it from a journalistic perspective, so to speak, if that makes sense. And Erica, I'm curious about your thoughts on this ordeal, if you have any follow up to that. Yeah.
Can you clarify what you were saying, David, about this is not that issue? Like, I think it's all related. So what do you mean by what you said? Because I really want to understand what you're saying about the affirmative action issue. Like, that's not an
Yeah.
example of DEI getting suppressed, you know?
Yeah. I guess I'll let Crystal explain that one,
Yeah,
but yeah.
let's let Crystal explain. She's our expert.
And you don't don't feel like you have to give us the full answer, because I know this is a pretty tricky one and not a lot of people understand that I would say. Yeah.
I think I'm among those who don't understand. You know,
Okay,
and I want to be clear that I don't call myself an expert, because as soon as we say the word expert, it establishes a hierarchy and a sense of authority, and also it kind of closes off other perspectives or possibilities. So I don't use expertise. I'm always learning, and honestly, I don't know a lot about affirmative action. I do see them as integral. I see affirmative action as kind of the wave that came in the 80s, and I see the diversity, the large investments and escalation of diversity, equity, inclusion after the George Floyd shooting. I see that as kind of like another wave, but absolutely, I see them as a wave of the same movement towards inclusion and equity in our society.
Yeah, I'll
Beautiful.
I'll just say that the major defining moment was, you know, that Supreme Court really the U.S. Supreme Court rejection of affirmative action in large part, and saying that you can't discriminate based on race in your admissions, and that kind of led to this snowball effect of pulling back on DEI in the corporate environment. And you know, nobody thought it would happen as probably as quickly as it did, or maybe some did, but there's a lot of changes out there, and it's tough to explain. I haven't, you know, it's almost before any book has been written or anything. It's experts in the field and on the ground are the ones who can maybe give us the best explanation. I'd love to see, you know, for example, 60 Minutes or somebody like that do a special on it, because it's really you know, cutting edge issue. Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
I love what you just said, Crystal, about these waves, and it's understanding it from a historical perspective. And I think there's so much fear and people acting out of fear and tightening rules because of out of fear versus out of like win-win, like the model of win-win. So I think that's what this is really speaking to, is what is truly win-win. So as a person doing this kind of work, leadership wise, DEI wise, like it's deep, right?
It's very deep. It's very deep. And I want to respond to what you're saying. And also, David, what you said earlier about the chasm, you know, the conflict, the us versus them, right? I think, at least in my time, we're in the most polarized expression in the United States. And there's this strong us versus them. And you said, I don't want to throw anybody out with the baby, you know, I don't want to throw anything out with the baby water. I don't want to throw anybody out. I want to invite everybody in. And right now, I'm actually working on the front lines of this work. I'm working in a conservative community in Northern California for a financial institution. And most of the people that I am working with do not believe in DEI, but they are willing to come to the table. And if we make space and we value their perspective and actually work to understand their perspective, we can begin to dismantle that false us versus them, because the bottom line is we're all in this together, and what's good for me is good for you. So just helping people to see the great commonality we have. My partner and I, we call it the power of we. You know, to look at our commonality and to ground ourselves in the fact that we all have basically the same needs and the same desire for peace, security, and well-being in our lives. And so if we can find that common ground, we can begin to transcend this rhetoric of us versus them that is really destroying us as a people. And I think, you know, even as an extension, our planet.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I do think data is an important thing. For example, if you look at university admissions or maybe at company admissions, and maybe you have American Express, and 25 years ago, maybe everybody who they hired was white, or maybe 90% was white, or who knows what the numbers are. You know, that tells you something right there. And I feel like, so, you know, there's really no harm in data, but, you know, the politicization of this issue, and, you know, really the kind of
Yeah.
lack of, kind of, you know, knowledge about it, I think is one of the big barriers. So I know, for example, our Rotary Club, just by looking at the breakup of the makeup of the club, opened a lot of eyes, and that's actually under the DEI committee that started that. So I think some things should almost be non-controversial, but then everything becomes controversial and politicized in this environment. Even if you're looking at, well, okay, why are, you know, 70% of the club, you know, this or that, and, you know, there's obviously a big lack of representation of kind of the breakup of the makeup of the community. And for our club, it was really just asking those questions: how do we include more people and make this club look more representative of the community and get new perspectives? Maybe it's women, maybe it's minorities, whatever it may be. So I felt like the process had been healthy for the most part in Rotary. But you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, so
we've kind
people
of,
tuning
yeah.
in, they can talk to you, David, reach out to you, David, about coming to check out your Oakland Rotary. And for people learning about Crystal Fry's work, make sure to reach out in the chat, or we'll put all the ways you can contact Crystal in there, to be able to do the beautiful leadership work you're doing and DEI work you're doing. You know, the whole point is creating bridges. And I'm so appreciate that you've made this your stance, Crystal, for the work you do in the world. We need you. I mean, I'm contacting my health company about being more inclusive with people who are non-binary, to have them be included, to be able to come become part of my health company. There can be a box for non-binary if they don't identify as female or male. Like, come on, let's really be that inclusive, you know? So there's so many different examples, and just this idea of having this conversation is important. As clumsy as it might be, it's like letting yourself be messy and then learn and keep learning, and lifelong learning is awesome.
Yeah,
You know?
I know we only have about a minute or two left here because we got to let you guys get to our time limit here, but we do want to ask the other $10 million question, which was related to that kind of in the same categories. Who is your ideal client out there? Who do you most want to work with?
All right, well, but this is really tough because I want to talk to you about all this stuff so much more. But my ideal client, it's a leader looking to make change. It can
That's
be
wonderful. You did it.
within, because I know that everything begins within. So if I can help somebody to be more inclusive to themselves and their whole self and authentic in that, I know that that can impact organizations. But I'm especially looking to work with leaders who want to make a little bigger change and spread that out to a team, to an organization, to a community.
Well said.
Thank you.
Yay.
It was so fun.
We put you on the spot. You did great, Crystal.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
great.
it was live streamed. I thought we were recording for later.
Oh, yeah, I did get the live stream going, so this did go out live, and great work, everyone. We'd love to keep in touch and bring you back. And, it's just part of having a healthy discussion and learning about a new issue. And I would love for some other media folks or people to pick up this issue. And, if we misstated something, let us know, or feel free to, reach out and maybe we'll have you on the show. Who knows? So thanks for joining us, everyone, and appreciate you tuning into the Ripple Effect. I'm going to end the live broadcast here. So,
Okay, bye everybody. Thank you, David. Thank you.